The Thinking Moms Revolution is proud to present today's webinar, AmpCoil, an innovative treatment for Lyme and other chronic autoimmune conditions. Aaron and Geneva Bigelow are the co-founders of Health Evolution Tech, Incorporated, a California-based, self-funded tech startup that developed the AmpCoil device, a sound tech transformation tool that empowers people to be stewards of their own health. Aligned with the principles of nature, AmpCoil, powered by the Better Guide app, is the only system that merges PEMF, biofeedback, bioresonance, Tesla, and sound technology into an all-in-one wellness system for home use. Having traveled the world seeking a solution to their family's decade-long challenge with life-threatening chronic Lyme disease, with little or no improvements, they ultimately found that necessity is truly the mother of invention. Visionaries and entrepreneurs with a combined 30 years of experience at the executive level in the holistic health technology industry, Aaron and Geneva assembled a forward-thinking team to create the AmpCoil. From Lyme to wellness, their profound transformation has inspired a mission based on the pay it forward principle to help others rise above the current pandemic of Lyme and autoimmune conditions. The Bigelows live in Nevada City, California with their 2 daughters, while their AmpCoil family expands throughout North America and 10 countries around the world. Disclaimer: powered by Health Evolution Tech, PEMF is not a replacement for any standard treatment, but a complementary one. AmpCoil units have not been evaluated by governments and are considered products for personal use, and are consumer products for personal use. The AmpCoil system is not intended for use in the diagnosis, treatment, cure, or prevention of any disease, medical condition, physical, or psychological disorder. It should not be considered a replacement for medical advice or treatment. If you have a serious acute or chronic health concern, please consult a trained professional who can fully assess your needs and address them effectively. The AmpCoil system is intended to study the effects of voice-directed PEMF sound transmission on the body. Today, we are joined by Aaron and Geneva Bigelow, who are going to explain the technology behind the AmpCoil device, its use, and the experience of some of their clients. They will present for approximately 45 minutes, and then we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. Welcome, Geneva and Aaron.
All right, well, thank you very much for being here and letting us share this amazing gift that we want to give to the world. With the amazing, I understand there's thousands of you that have had an opportunity to work together and hopefully find some solutions to things that you're challenged with when you're in your own families. And I just want to thank my wife and partner Geneva, who has stood by me well over a decade when I thought she was crazy to stick around. And this is just something that is such a dream for us. You're actually getting us in our very first recording in our new recording studio. We want to start doing things like this more often so we can really start sharing this with the world. And Geneva's going to be doing most of the talking today because she, like a lot of moms, has those attentions to details. And I just say, yes, dear, because I know it's in my highest good. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her, and I will jump in when I think it's important for maybe the men in your lives to know a few things. So without further ado,
thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure there's many passionate, pay attention to detail moms on this call, so it truly is a pleasure to be here with you. And the topics of health and wellness and children and transformation are on the forefront of my heart and my mind on a daily basis. After 10 years of, going through what we did as a family, that really, it hits at a core level. And so I just want to acknowledge you for being on the call today, because it really shows that you're in action mode, you're in solution mode, you're moving forward. And that's what you got to do. You got to stay, moving forward, because if you don't, this kind of thing can take you down. You know, it's not like the common cold where you just say, oh, it'll get better. And no, it gets worse. And so you have to stay in solution mode. And so it's great that you're here, and I want to acknowledge you for that. Ray would like to share our story of transformation and the gift that came from that, which is the Amp Coil. And we are going to go ahead and do that, as well as some of the, you know, explaining why we're getting such staggering results with it. But before we go any further, I would just like to set the intention for the call, because when you get a group of people together like this, there is a lot of power and a lot of possibility that can happen when we create a collective field. So at this time, I set the intention that at the end of this hour, we all walk away with added strength for our journey to wellness and clarity around our next positive step forward, and peace in knowing that we're not alone, as well as empowerment in the knowledge of knowing that we are truly stewards of our own health, and that with the right knowledge and the right tools and universal grace, that we can bring wellness to our families and our communities, and that it will impact us directly, as well as the collective vibration of humanity.
Wow.
So let us begin. Let's see, I want to make sure I can move the slide here. And there we go. So starting out with our story, our story may be different than yours, but it's really the experience along the journey, which is what is somewhat universal. And that's really what I want to speak to. You know, we were a typical family on the outside. We looked fairly healthy and happy and able to engage in life. But at home, there was a different story. At home, we were crumbling on the inside. This is a list of some of the things that we were going through. And the impact of these were just debilitating, you know, with severe food allergies and migraines, joint pain, anxiety, night sweats, Tourette's-like symptoms, panic attacks, neurologic pain, and the list goes on. This continued for several years. And it was really interesting because our friends and family really, and other people just didn't understand. And when we look back now, we realize that how could they understand? You know, they're not in our bodies. They weren't feeling what we were feeling. And they only had to go by what was on the outside. And on the outside, we looked fine. We attempted to live a normal life, school, work, gatherings with families and friends. But that changed too, because, you know, when you have a play date and then all of a sudden you go into a Lyme wave and you're walking around in a stupor and saying erratic things, doesn't really go over too well. And that started to happen with all of us. And so instead of destroying friendships and relationships, we just started to isolate. Started homeschooling our daughter because it really wasn't fair to put her in a classroom setting with the demands of school and all the social interactions. And I'm sure, you know, those of you with kids can understand what I'm talking about there. And, you know, and then we had to kind of deal with the judgments of other people and their perceptions, you know, saying, well, gosh, she's 8 years old. Why can't she read yet? You should really put her back in school. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, how is she supposed to remember that A with another vowel says A when she can't even remember what she had for breakfast that morning? And so I just had to trust what we were doing. And, you know, we went through the entire process of elimination, you know, thinking through things like, well, maybe she needs glasses. Maybe she can't see. Well, she could see fine. And we started going through the list and trying to eliminate all the different possibilities. And finally, we just accepted that until she gets healthy, nothing is going to stick in school. And honestly, at this point, we didn't even care, honestly, if she could add or subtract or read. It was more about just being able to access her. It was like this veil was in front of her and this glaze over her eyes, and not being able to access her was probably the most heartbreaking part of all. And that's what we wanted. That was first step, was to get that veil lifted, and then everything was possible from there. And so getting healthy really became our full-time job. We started learning how to, I married Aaron and he was the cook. And I was like, score on that one, right?
I think that lasted a couple months.
Yeah. It was just a couple months after we got married is when he got sick. So, we learned how to cook gluten-free and dairy-free and soy-free and corn-free and sugar-free and GMO-free and doing all that. And this was a huge learning curve for me because, I would stay up for hours at night putting together recipes, looking through all these cookbooks just so I could feed my family for one day. And so I guess you could say we were attempting to live a normal life, but it wasn't really turning out to be quite so normal.
More abnormal.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my part.
Go ahead. Yeah. You can speak back to this.
Okay, thank you. So when it really came to my side of the journey, I realized, like most fathers, husbands, it's my job to provide for the family, take care of the family. But I realized I was curled up in a bed most of the day, and was very fortunate if I could make it to the bathroom standing up without falling over. So that was my reality for quite some time. And I attempted to keep working. I attempted to keep running. We already had a holistic health technology company. I attempted to keep that going. And I was literally failing miserably. And I wasn't willing to admit it. And others around me, other than my wife, didn't notice right away. So I just continued to fake it. And that lasted for months. And then she finally said, look, just don't get on the phone if you're not in a place where you can remember what to say. So I made a new agreement. Or
remember the conversation when you got off the phone. You said, remember, and I said, honey, it's a liability to put you on the phone now.
So I got to be, and this is where part of the beauty came in, I got to clock out of that and become Mr. Mom and make sure that the kids got to school, made sure that they did get to their play dates and that there was some supervision there when those started going south. And so that was the beauty in it for me, is that I got to be as present as I possibly could with my children when we were all going through this journey, which wasn't always easy, but I knew at least I was contributing on some level. And then this went on for years, and we'd gone to traditional doctors. Of course, they wanted to put me on all these wonderful medications that would maybe help the psychology side of what was going on with me. Antidepressants, you name it. And I'm sure most of you have been through these conversations as well. And I realized that was not my calling, and gone to some amazing holistic MDs because we were in that field. And finally one pulled me aside and said, listen, you're the sickest person I've ever seen walk in my door. And actually had 3 of the staff members come in, and they were using me as a guinea pig to show what was actually possible as a human being walking around with this wonderful so-called disease. And that was a real turning point for me, where I realized I wasn't crazy, but I knew we needed to do something different. And so I believe this is the time when I was just, you can see in the picture here, I have my thumbs up, because I was like, everything's okay, even though I was dying inside. And at that time it was like, okay, something radically different needs to change.
Yeah, that was a thumbs up that I'm standing today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
barely.
Yeah, so we decided, well, maybe we just need to make a lifestyle change. You know, if we just, maybe this life isn't for us and all this busyness of everything. And so we made a dramatic lifestyle change. You want to share about that?
Yeah, of course, the change that all of us think we're going to make, completely unplug from everything you know and move to a holistic healing retreat in Costa Rica and live off the grid. Right? We've all thought we're going to do that, correct? So we were actually crazy enough to do it. We were fortunate that a dear friend of my dad's, after we exhausted all our resources, said, you know what, I'm going to give you guys the money to go down and just take care of your family. So that at least got us a plane ticket to where we were going. The rest we were on our own. We decided to move down there for a year, completely changed our diets again. We're away from all those wonderful negative EMFs. We were, had incredible healthy people around us that were very much on a conscious healing path. We got exposed to all sorts of other wonderful healing modalities, and all these things were wonderful, and they would make temporary solutions to the bigger issue. But we realized, oh my gosh, by the end of it, we're actually still getting sicker.
Yeah.
And that's when we just knew, again, it was time for a radical change.
Yeah, I mean, even the most ideally healing environment, our health was still declining, to the point that we had to take an emergency flight out of Costa Rica, come back stateside, and we continued our path. And these are some of the things that we did.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them that you're familiar with, the zappers and ultraviolet light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, advanced cell training, ozone therapy. We traveled to John of God in Brazil. Detox baths, foot baths, saunas, colonics. I mean, the list goes on. The only thing that we didn't try was what we put in an asterisk at the end, the cryotherapy. We just couldn't bear getting that cold, even though some people swear by it. And bee venom therapy, I just couldn't imagine getting stung by bees. So we didn't quite have the courage to try those two. However, these were some of the things. Our living room looked like Einstein's lab. There were devices everywhere. Our countertops were filled with thousands of dollars of supplements. I remember counting one day how many supplements that you took in a sitting, and it was 100 in one sitting of supplements. All of these things honestly had some benefit, but none of them had enough to get us to the finish line, or if they did have some benefit, then they stopped working after a while.
Or felt they were so complex, it was hard to remember what to do.
Exactly. Or so expensive too, and so that's the other thing is, relevant to this next slide here is going broke. I mean, the financial impact of Lyme disease between the healthcare costs and lost wages is $53,000 per patient. When I saw that stat, it's no surprise, because for us, I think we spent...
we spent well over $250,000 just on kind of keeping ourselves alive with all the different things that we decided to try. And we, in the beginning, had the resources. That quickly changed. And next thing we knew, we had $100,000 in unpaid medical bills on top of that. And then over the several year period we were going through this, we stopped counting at well over $500,000 in lost wages. So, we look at all these things, and these were all things that allowed us to finally move forward, which we're going to talk about here shortly, and what we created. So. Yeah.
So, and that's this next slide here is, we just want to talk about a few key choice points in our journey, because these choice points are times when you just all of a sudden have this realization, this aha moment, when everything becomes clear. And sometimes it was a cumulative, cumulative events, and sometimes it was like, I got it. And we wanted to share 3 key choice points that we had, because they completely changed the trajectory of our experience on the journey, as well as the direction. And so some of these things may have come up already on your journey. If they haven't yet, it's good to pay attention so that when they do come up, you go, okay, this is part of the transformation process. So the first point was identity. because, you know, it's really hard to remember who you are in the midst of this struggle. When everything on the outside and on the inside is just stripped away from you, you start to question, you know, who am I? And is this really possibly my ultimate destiny? You know, it's difficult to separate yourself from the experience to who you are, to the experience that you're going through. So, do you want to share?
Yeah. And, you know, for me, when I was lying there in bed, as long as I did, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, how many more people are suffering needlessly? And I started looking into the stats, and I realized it was millions quickly. You know, I actually had a dear friend of ours that started a very successful Lyme Foundation recently, and he said there's two people in our country, or even in the world. There are those that have Lyme disease, and there are those that just don't know they have it yet. And so it just really reminded me of how big of an issue this really is. And so this is where, you know, we started thinking, okay, you know, it's time for us to be part of the change here.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where pain was my real motivation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more pain I was in, the more motivated I got.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was like, this is not my ultimate destiny, to just lie here in bed and suffer needlessly.
Mm-hmm. I remember coming in and checking on him, and I think he was asleep, and he'd just be laying there, and he'd just start mumbling, this is not my destiny. Yeah. This is not my destiny. And I'd say, you're right, honey, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, so you're just being ultra clear that this is what you're maybe going through, but this is not necessarily your ultimate destiny. So that was a big one for us. And for me, that came when we were pregnant with our second daughter. I was 9 months pregnant, and at that time we had zero money, not even enough. We were on food stamps, not even enough to pay rent. And so what do you do when you're, you know, without a home? We drove to a homeless shelter. And I remember pulling up in the parking lot and sitting in the car with Aaron and looking out and seeing the people in the soup line, and you know, the bars on the windows, and parents yelling at each other and their kids. And we tried to imagine bringing our newborn child home to this. And we didn't say a word to each other. We just looked at each other, and Aaron put the car in reverse, and we drove away. Mm-hmm. We didn't know where we were driving to, but it was so clear to me at that point that no, that is not my destiny. No. And at some point I just, you know, had to say enough. And, you know, my brother has been homeless for several years. I'm very familiar with the lifestyle, and it's not an easy one. And it's not necessarily a personal defect when people become homeless. It's usually a series of circumstances, you know, as we experienced. And I just knew that the stress of that lifestyle, coupled with what we were going through physically, would have surely taken us down. So as we drove away, I just remember looking up to the heavens, and then just deep inside of me, and I just said, enough, enough. There's only one direction that we are going from here, and that's up. Mm-hmm. And that's what started to happen.
Yeah.
So the second choice point that comes along in a journey of a lot of challenges is pain my downfall or my inspiration? And for me, it was really not one moment of pain, kind of like with Aaron. It was this cumulative effect of just so much time to lay in bed and feel what he was feeling, and then which broke open his heart to the compassion of all the millions of other people that were in that position. And that just really fueled him to be able to,
totally,
you know, to keep going and to do something. It was the same for me as I looked around at my family on a daily basis, and then got on the internet and started, you know, reading other people's stories. It was that cumulative effect. And that pain during the day is what fueled me at night to get on the internet, to review my notes, to sit there, you know, when everyone was asleep and say, there's got to be a solution. There's always a solution. And I'm not going to stop until I find a way out of this or through this. And so you know, because there was a few times when that pain I started to feel, and it was literally paralyzing. And so that became so clear to me, and that's why I bring this up today, is because pain will either take you down or it'll become your inspiration. The third choice point is that insight. Is this happening for a reason? Can our experiences benefit others? And this was a moment. This wasn't cumulative. This was a moment for us. I remember coming in, sitting on the bed with Aaron, and we looked at each other and we're going, what is going on? I mean, is this really happening? Is this for real? What is happening to our life? And then we paused for a moment and said, could this possibly be happening for a greater reason beyond what we are even aware of? And in just that openness, in just that possibility, this awareness started to come to us, and we said, well, we've tried pretty much everything and nothing has worked. Maybe we're supposed to create something to help us. And if it helps us, it's got to help other people, right? And again, just being open to that possibility, this peace started to flow through us. And it was that peace of knowing that it's not pain without a purpose. Like there was a real reason behind it. And most importantly, that reason was bigger than ourselves. That this could possibly, what we were going through, someday benefit others.
Yeah.
So we basically took that as a yes, that we were supposed to go down this path. And so we went back to the drawing board and said, well, gosh, out of everything that we've tried, it's the technologies that we got the most results with. And so let's look really at what aspects of technology were really working. Nothing, you know, it was all kind of separate technologies. And we thought, well, gosh, maybe if we can take all the aspects of different technologies and merge them into one system, then what would we have? So we wrote down, looking at bioresonance was, we'd had some really good results with. And for those of you who are not familiar with bioresonance, it's basically working with frequencies and, you know, looking at identifying frequencies and then counteracting harmful frequencies in order to be able to create optimal balance in the body. And I'll explain a little bit more about bioresonance in a few minutes. But the other thing that we noticed was PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies. And this was so important because we had used bioresonant devices, but most of them were with an electrical application. And so the electricity, we learned, stops at bones, muscles, and nerves. And what we were going through had, you know, crossed the blood-brain barrier, and we were having, you know, significant neurological effects. It was very intracellular, into our joints. And so there's really no other way to access that except a PEMF field. You know, you can take all the antibiotics, all the herbs, anything that you want to take orally, intravenously, it's in the bloodstream. Well, that's not going to be affecting into the brain and deep into the hollow organs and joints. So the only way to do that, we figured out, was with a magnetic field. And so that's why we wrote down the PEMF field and then an amplifier, something to amp it up, because we had used PEMF, but a lot of them just weren't really powerful enough. You know, it was a tease almost, like we could kind of feel, but it just wasn't enough. So we need something to amp it up. The best results that we had with the delivery system was with the modified Tesla coil. So we said, you know, okay, I think that's got to be a part of it too. And then the biofeedback portion, because bioresonance using frequencies is only as good as knowing which frequency to use. And so we thought, well, with the biofeedback, that's how we can ask our own bodies, who knows ourselves best, which frequencies are in discord.
And then we're no longer shooting in the dark.
No longer shooting in the dark. It takes away that guesswork and really shortens the amount of time to be able to get results. And the last aspect was having some kind of built-in intelligence, because we would sit there and, hold on to the Rife cylinders and do all these things. And we would just, be down for a week of herxing. And, we knew that there had to be some kind of built-in intelligence that allowed the body to go through a successful session, a healing process where you could ground the body with the pulse, with the earth's pulse, and open the channels of elimination and flood the body with the nutrients and do all those things that were necessary so that we weren't adding more stress on the body in attempt to cleansing while we were cleansing. So that built-in intelligence was really, really key, because if we were going to share this with people, all that information had to be built in, because most people don't have that background knowledge.
We also knew we needed to make it so simple that I affectionately say even a Lyme can do it.
Yeah.
So, when you're sitting there and you can barely remember your own name, I was the guinea pig when we built this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we basically contacted, we got in contact with an engineer and built a baseline product, and we started to use it, noticed results. But then we thought, well, if this continues like we think it will, then we've still got a lot of work to do, because it was about 4 feet long. It was run by a marine battery, and it took a day and a half to set it up. It had to be driven across the country to us. And so we thought, okay, we still got a lot of work to do, because the ultimate vision was, like Aaron said, something that was extremely simple to use, that could be used at home. No more going to practitioners. When you need help, you need it now. You can't wait till your Friday appointment, right? And then have that Friday appointment cost $150, and if you've got 4 or 5 people in your family, no wonder why people go broke trying to get well. So this had to be something that could be used in the home, so you can use it when you need it, and that you could take care of your whole family with. Had to be safe, not causing any harm to the body. The body was already having enough of a challenge. Why do more harm in an attempt to try and get well? Having the low herx factor was really important to us, because we just did not believe that creating huge herx responses means, oh, it's working, right? Too much stress on the body is not beneficial. Needed to be portable, small enough and portable enough, because we had been homebound for so long that we wanted to be able to travel and move around, but we needed to, envision taking this wellness tool with us, because we knew we weren't going to get better overnight. And so we imagined being able to take this wellness tool with us, fit on the airplane and fit nicely like that. An all-in-one system, because you can't go and purchase one device and another thing and another and another. You add that up and it's $60,000. So this all had to be into one system, customized, so that it could be used by everybody in the family. Not just for one person, but it truly could be customized for everybody. No operator error. Learn how to use it in under an hour. That's what we imagined. 1 hour is the maximum. Learn how to use it in that. And especially for people like, with Lyme brain, you've got it. It has to be super simple, like downloading an app, and you can kind of intuitively figure out how to use it. We also knew that it had to be affordable, because people were already, like ourselves, were financially devastated. And so it had to be within a price range that people could afford. And if they didn't have the money, then there had to be some type of low interest financing that would be available to them.
Which we'll cover in a bit.
Yeah. Push and play, walk away, and most importantly, that it's so easy to use that once people started getting better, we imagined then turning around and being able to help other people. So that was the vision, and that vision Aaron shared with a friend, and a couple days later, a book arrived in the mail.
Yep.
And it had this card in it.
Yeah, which, for those that maybe aren't already familiar with Steve Jobs' journey with Apple, this quote really motivated me, because it allowed me to realize that we were crazy enough, because we'd done everything to be the change in the world that we wanted to see. And we realized that because we've been in this industry so long, helping develop similar technologies, that we knew enough other amazing, wonderful people that would want to jump in and possibly help us when we're crazy enough to hear the call as well.
Yeah.
So this literally is our mantra.
Yeah, this card stayed on our bathroom. Yeah. That's in our bathroom, on our bathroom mirror, because this vision became so clear, but we're thinking, are we crazy? He sends us this card. Yes, you are crazy.
Yes.
And this vision is bigger than you. Yeah. And thus we need to find other crazy people to help make this a reality. And so that's exactly what we did, you know. Yeah. Like Aaron said, being in the industry, we knew people, we picked up the phone, we called the best doctor that we knew that understood the body so intimately, understood frequencies, the best software engineers and, you know, that understood biofeedback, as well as engineers that understood PEMF, manufacturing. We pulled together marketing and branding people that really understood the essence and the energy of what we were creating and that could really identify the user experience, as well as trainers and educators to develop the whole support program as well.
And just when I thought we couldn't be any crazier, we decided to bring in 10 very dynamic, strong type A personalities that you would never put together on a team and have all work together. Yeah. But we had a feeling there was no other way to do it. Yeah. And so we've all got to work through our stuff for the greater good of man and womankind. Yeah. And if you look at this picture here on the far right, those are mathematical equations that are being figured out. And so my wife became a very quick study along with Dr. Drake. And it's amazing when I look at that now, that's built into our system. Yeah, right. You know? Right. And you know, this whole project was entirely self-funded because it was very important to us that we didn't bring in investors that didn't understand the vision. Like if they hadn't gone through this health journey themselves, we didn't want people involved making decisions for the end user that hadn't actually gone through the journey themselves. So we committed to self-funding it. And part of the only way that we could do that is having people like this who literally, a lot of these people work for 1 to 2 years with no pay. And that's how we got it done. You know, it was more important for them to fulfill their life's purpose and really take their skills and their expertise and use it for the greater good of humanity. And so we're deeply, deeply grateful for the team and the growing team that continues to show up in this way. And so less than a year later, after the initial prototype, the Amp Coil powered by Better Guide was born, an empowerment tool using proven technologies merged and refined into one system. Specifically for the home user. And we continue to use it at home and have continued to use it. We're happy to say that my daughter, she has, you know, 0 Tourette's-like symptoms, the 0 stomach pains, that glaze in her eyes, that veil has been lifted. We can actually connect with her, and we know that she can feel herself too. She has done 5 grade levels in 3 years. So parents, if you feel like your child's getting behind in school, don't worry. When they have their full capacity back, it's amazing how much they can pick up. 5 grade levels in 3 years. So another thing, if you look closely, you can see a little dog in that picture next to me. And anytime you turn this technology on, almost any dog will come and sit next to the coil because they're much more aware than we are. They know what's good for them. And so we think this dog may be the longest living dog because of how much time she spent on the coil. So it's pretty amazing what happens with animals around this. Yeah, so we just continue to coil. You know, gluten and dairy we can have in our house now. When just eat literally a fingernail of gluten used to put my daughter out for 3 days on the couch. You know, our baguette and brie cheese now. Yeah, I mean, our philosophy really now is when people ask me, do I have to stay on this very strict diet I was already on, I tell them, and we've got a background in nutrition, 80-20 rule. Eat well 80% of the time and 20% live a little. And we can still help you get completely out of the woods. So that's really held true with almost all our clients. Yeah. And for me, I don't think I had mentioned yet, but I had gone, I started getting migraines really, really bad, and I was on ice packs about 3 to 5 hours a day. And they got so intense, I went into full left side paralysis. Lost my vision
A lot of the times I was unable to speak. And I haven't had a migraine in over 2 years. And I've regained full function of the left side of my body. Of no panic attacks anymore. I think probably the one area still working on is repairing my adrenals, because I think after 10 years of being in high alert mode, I'm still learning that it's okay. I can relax now. So that's my one area I'm still working on. Otherwise, I'm totally symptom free.
Plus, you keep giving back to what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And this is why more of the team's showing up. So.
And what about you?
Gosh.
What about your Tahoe trip?
Yeah. So, this is where I get a little emotional. I was someone who was a very active athlete and had competed for many years in many things. So when this took me down, I could barely crawl out of bed. I said, whoa, I at least got to be able to move my body somehow. And so I started getting into stand-up paddleboarding, which was tough because you need balance, but somehow I felt pretty good when I would get out on the lake. And we lived right near Lake Tahoe, so I'd go out on Lake Tahoe and could go about a quarter mile. This is when I was still rather sick. And I said to a dear friend, I said, I'm going to stand up paddleboard around this lake within the next 6 months, which is almost 80 miles. And would you do it with me? And this person said, yes, I'll do it with you. And then I thought, gee, I'm really crazy here. This isn't realistic. But I believed in what we were creating with the Amp Coil. And so 6 months later, we did the trip, finished it right on the timeline we thought we would, and hugged my wife. And I looked at her and I said, I actually feel so good. I think I could do this again right now. So now we do this every year. And we're doing our 3rd annual stand-up paddleboarding trip, which is our Lyme to Wellness trip. So if any of you would like to come on the trip, maybe you're not ready yet, but we can get you there over the next couple of months. It's going to be the 2nd week in July, and it's really to remember where we started and where we're all going in the future. So it's an amazing trip.
So we started manufacturing and shipping this out to people and started realizing, wow, we're not the only ones getting these results. Over 90% of users reported 92 to 96% reduction of their symptoms. These stats were gathered by the Wellness for Humanity Foundation. They have a Lyme to Wellness program in which they are using the Amp Coil in. And so we're deeply grateful for them for tracking people's progress and being able to have these stats to be able to share with people. So we could say, well, why are these results happening? And five questions. Why does it work? How does it work? How can it help? What will I feel when I have a session? And where do I begin? So that's what we're going to address in the next part here. Frequency and vibration. So as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that's truly what we began to realize, that really everything is a frequency. And every organ, every tissue, every cell is a waveform that can be measured. And it's not complicated. It's a simple physics formula to measure matter and identify the frequency from it. There's online databases, NASA, government sites, university sites. They publish these frequencies for reference.
Also, really quick, there's a video on our website, which is this screenshot is from that video, which helps the everyday person to understand what's really going on with the technology. So I encourage you to check that out on our site. Yeah,
and it goes into this as well on the video, which means, this is a growing area in science right now, is understanding, because everything is frequency. Well, how does this relate to the human body? And meaning that, microbes, non-beneficial pathogens, as well as metals and toxins are also frequencies. And if these are the core causal factor in dis-ease in the body, then perhaps through bioresonance, we could counteract these harmful frequencies. And not only that, but use stimulate frequencies to be able to shift the bioterrain in the body so that it's an uninhabitable environment in the future for that. So that's what we are seeing is contributing factor to why people are getting these kinds of results. And people still, sometimes have questions around really what is bioresonance, and that's why we put the tuning fork picture up there, because I think that's really the best analogy, because when you strike a tuning fork, it begins to vibrate, and it causes the other tuning fork to vibrate of the same frequency as well. And so, and even if you put your hand over the first tuning fork, this tuning fork is going to continue to vibrate. And so when we're sending a frequency to the body, the waveform of the liver or the kidney or the brain, and we send that to the body, literally the liver, the kidney, the brain starts to vibrate in that optimal state. So that's basically what the tuning part is, of tuning up our body using bioresonance and then neutralizing the interfering frequency patterns. The theory behind that really is that when you vibrate a single-celled organism, like a bacteria or a parasite, at such a high amplitude, it really can't withstand that level of vibration, right? And so it's disabling to them, and the immune system comes then and cleans that up. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating. You can actually see under a microscope, in a petri dish, a pathogen, and when the precise frequency is applied to it, it starts vibrating. Yeah, you can see it on our website. You can check it out on YouTube. It's really quite interesting. Yeah.
Well, and something I think worth mentioning, because a lot of people have a hard time relating this to something that they see every day. And if you've ever owned a fish tank or been around a healthy fish tank, that healthy fish tank has an optimum pH in it, which allows everything to be healthy, including the fish. No fungus, all those things growing. Our body's no different. So what's really being created here through this process is we're creating such a healthy immune response that there's no longer a home for these low-level, we'll just call them creatures, to live in the body. So we're creating that healthy environment that you see in a fish tank. And that really starts to take care of almost all these things that we're challenged with when we get these, incredible mystery so-called diseases. Right.
And so as we mentioned before that, using frequencies, it's only as good as knowing which frequency to use. And so that's where we were, looking into the biofeedback component of it. And we started to look at neurofeedback and all the accessories, $1,500 for all those accessories. And our goal was to keep the price point as low as possible. So we said, no accessories, what can we do? And then we realized, well, in law enforcement, they use biofeedback in the lie detector test. Formerly, they were using galvanic skin response. But what they're doing now is transitioning over to using voice analysis. And we thought, like in a lie detector test, you're able to receive information from the body. And because the voice it's so highly attuned, it can provide that information. And for some people, that's kind of a stretch. And so we put in a couple slides on that. When we speak, much more is being communicated than simply our words, because the larynx and the vocal cords communicate with the brain and other organs via the vagus nerve. Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. The voice holds information about the state of our body and delivers this information through our vocal cords when we speak. The Better Guide app includes a proprietary system that identifies the vocal frequencies that are out of range through a simple voice analysis. And then the Better Guide translates your vocal patterns and prioritizing areas of harmonic discordance in your body, and then creates a journey, which is basically a concert of customized tones. The tones are all frequencies, right? And based on the priorities identified in your voice analysis. So, what you do is you take that tablet that you see there, you click record, and then you speak into the tablet for 30 minutes, and it records your voice print.
30 seconds.
Oh, did I say 30 seconds? Yes, big difference.
Less is more.
Yeah. And it records your voice print, and then it finds, through a spectrum analyzer where all the discord is, and then it's beautiful because it takes that and creates a custom journey for you, and it directs you as far as where to go in the software.
It just, from a simplicity standpoint, it's so simple. Our 6-year-old daughter knows how to run a session.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's in the Better Guide app? So when it creates these journeys, there's several different types of journeys, and I'm just going to go through these really quickly, just to kind of give you an idea. So custom, organ journeys, nutrition, cleanse, create your own, and a library. So when you go into the app, there's custom journeys. These are 33-minute journeys. They are what we call the feel-good journeys. You know, Relax All goes into the central nervous system when you're stressed out. You know, moms, it's so important when you are taking care of your children to take care of yourself, because if you go down, the whole family goes down. Okay, so, you know, taking care of yourself is, you know, put that oxygen mask on yourself.
Just like they teach on the airplane.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So the Relax All journey is great for moms. It's just relaxes the nervous system. It's the best de-stressor. Balance the mind, you know, when you have brain fog. Pain release is a really popular one. Deep sleep, immune boost, positivity, all these are our feel-good journeys. And then these other journeys, the organ and nutrition journeys, are based on your voice print, and then it directs you which journey to go to. And when you see the organ and hear the nutrition journeys, I kind of liken these to pumping up a tire. You know, you're gonna pump up the tire and really rejuvenate the body. But unless you get to this next area, the cleanse journey, if you keep that nail in the tire, okay, the microbes, the metals, the toxins, you're always going to have a slow leak. Okay, so you do need to pump up the body with the organs and nutrition, but you eventually need to pull that nail out of the tire to be able to have long-term results. So these cleanse journeys are fabulous, and like I mentioned before, that built-in intelligence, that's what you start to see here in the cleanse journey, because there's a primer. You know, the lay person doesn't know all these other things of getting the body in a left spin and the earth pulse, and, you know, that glutathione and acetylcholine and things like that help neutralize toxins on the way out. You don't need to know that. It's all built in there. And so literally you press play and it goes through the entire sequence here in the cleanse. Now, if you already have something from a test that is a known condition, you can also use the A through Z library. And so you can go in and select that, and it takes the harmonic frequencies associated with that, and again, plays that back to the body. And if there's a journey that you want that isn't in the app, we left this open as a create your own. So some people are very into right frequencies or cathode frequencies. It is compatible with that. You just literally type in a frequency, put in the amount of time, and you've created your own journey.
And we have great coaching that comes in to help with these things if you get stuck.
Yeah. So really, AmpCoil, a simple solution. Record your voice print, select a journey, press play, sit back and relax. And when you sit back and relax, you're going to put the coil on you, and that's the delivery system is the PEMF delivery system. It's literally the courier of the frequencies, like a magic carpet. It's able to take the frequencies deep intracellularly into the body. And a lot of people ask, well, you know, is it safe? We use safe frequencies 1,000 and below. And then the other question we get, well, is it EMF safe? Because I thought EMFs were not good for me. Well, there's good EMFs and there's harmful EMFs, okay? PEMF, our bodies could not survive without PEMF. We get a pulsed electromagnetic field from the earth. So when astronauts go up in space, they have to take a PEMF device with them in order to survive. So there's definitely beneficial PEMFs, okay? But there's also the harmful ones. The biggest difference is that the static EMFs are the ones that are harmful, as well as having it in an extremely high or an extremely low range. But here we use a fluctuating EMF energy field and a range that is of frequencies that are biologically identical. So when your body receives that frequency through that EMF field, that fluctuating EMF field says, oh, I recognize that, I get it, thank you. Versus the other one is it doesn't know what to do with, and that's why it's harmful. And the quote here, there's many, many studies on PEMF, over 2,000 double-blind studies demonstrating the benefits of it, if you're interested in looking at that. on our website or online. And a lot of people ask, what does it actually feel like during a session?
Yeah, so, for myself, and now that we have a facility here, we have a community center where people can come in for a small donation and have an experience. We have 5-6 devices going full time. And here we are in a town of 3,000 people, and we're booked every day from the time we wake up till the time we close. And the crazy thing about all this is we do not advertise at all. And because people have such a positive experience coming in, having sessions, when I say positive experience, they might come in, like Geneva said, adrenal fatigue, things of that nature. They might come in, just a lot of anxiety. And because of how the device works, it calms the nervous system, it recalibrates the body, it takes you out of that fight or flight, gets the brain to start doing its job again. And so consistently our clients tell us that they walk away feeling like this is their favorite thing to do in the day, is to come back in and have sessions because of how their body is really getting back online again. Yeah,
you feel very calm. Sometimes a tingling sensation as the chi starts increasing in your body. I remember when I first started using it, I was feeling pulses right where my migraines were. I was getting tingling all over my nerves, where I had the nerve damage. And a lot of people say that it's like the field has a way of going and knowing exactly where it's needed. And so you feel that, especially in the beginning. Some people it's very energizing for, so they don't like to do sessions at the nighttime. They like to do it during the day. And I like this picture here, with the kids. With kids, it is kind of hard to get them to sit for 20, 30 minutes unless you're reading them a book. So lots of times with my kids, I just put them to sleep and then I put the coil on them. And that's when they do their sessions, is when they're sleeping.
And they actually ask for it when they feel they need it.
Yeah. If they feel a cold coming on, if they feel anything, they say, Mommy, I think I need a session. And so, it's at the point now, home use, learn how to use it in less than an hour, take it with you wherever you go. Generally, people do about 3 sessions a week. Some less, some more, but in general, about 3. Common question, how long does it take to see results? It varies very much between people. I can give you a general idea. The stats that you saw from Wellness for Humanity, that was after 90 days of use. And these are with chronic Lyme conditions.
Yeah, and most people in 30 days are going to notice a significant change.
Yeah, I mean, almost everybody feels something on their first session. It's just how long is that going to hold for? You have to go through an entrainment process and a cleansing process. And so, you'll feel really good, and then you might hit something and kind of have a little bit of a detox response. And then all of a sudden you'll go, wow, you'll reach new heights.
But at least the lights start turning back on in the brain after 1 or 2 sessions, so you can actually follow the protocol.
Yeah. But we after a couple years, we still coil because
more for optimum use.
Optimum use. I can't imagine feeling any better, but then I coil and then all of a sudden I go, wow, I didn't know I was a little bit sore and the joints of my fingers. I mean, everything just keeps getting better and better and better, even though I didn't think that it could.
I know we're hitting the top of the hour here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yes, we're going to pick it up. So can it help? Who can it help? I do want to address this because a lot of people, may have varying conditions and say, well, can it help me? Well, the goal is to tune your body to its optimal vibration. So that is for everybody. The Amp Coil does not treat disease. There is no button in the software that says Lyme or
nor does it need to.
No, because every disease has an underlying causal factor, right? The bioterrain of the body, stressors like microbes, metals, and toxins, things like that. So that is what the focus of the Amp Coil is addressing those underlying causal factors, shifting the bioterrain, and doing no harm in the process, and best of all, doing it yourself. So it's really for everybody. It doesn't matter what your condition is. Like we said, it started with Lyme and chronic autoimmune, but now we're seeing a lot of people using it as a transformation tool, peak performance, and longevity and anti-aging. There's, countless success stories. I'm not going to, because we're running a little short on time, I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can go to the website, ampcoil.com/testimonials, and see lots of videos and lots of testimonials. I will show you a few more stats in just a minute, because to me, I love testimonials, but in my search, I wanted to see what was it on a large scale, what people were saying. So I'll show you those stats here. And that was done through the Wellness for Humanity Foundation. They chose the Amp Coil to be their first technology to provide for those in need. And basically, the foundation identifies technologies that to help those who are experiencing the devastating effects and financial burdens of Lyme and chronic autoimmune, and to restore wellness back into their lives. And it's amazing. Their goal is to eradicate the devastating effects of Lyme and chronic autoimmune by 2025. Yeah. So it's and based on the stats and the way things are happening, I'm very hopeful with that. They do have the Lyme to Wellness program, basically where they take an Amp Coil and put it into a home with a family that has at least 3 people with Lyme. And that's where we've been getting the stats from, is every week that they track they have a symptom tracker. And these are people who don't have the money to purchase one. And so the foundation donates one to them. But what's fabulous about this is it's not like a welfare program. Basically, after 4 months of using the Amp Coil, then that Amp Coil gets passed on to the next family. And the very cool thing is that after 4 months, after almost every single person in the family in the Lyme to Wellness program has been in a position, after 4 months of using the Amp Coil, then to be able to purchase their own, apply for financing, crowdfund for a down payment, that kind of thing. So, it's not welfare, it's more of an empowerment process for them. Just that hand that you need to be able to get back on your feet. Yep. And they're doing a lot of independent research with starting into IRB studies. And in the future, they're going to be having mobile wellness units where they've got about 3 or 4 Amp Coils in the back of a van, pull into cities and be able to take care of, entire communities.
Yeah, and there's definitely opportunities for donations there that can literally help millions.
Yeah. Yeah. I will just read one testimonial. It's the sweetest families from the Lyme to Wellness program. The biggest thing we are seeing with the Amp Coil is bursts of energy. My daughters and husband cleaned the garage together. My husband went around fixing things. My oldest daughter hung all her clothes and organized them herself. She was so excited to be getting everything organized. She's so excited to be up and walking around the house. We are all getting used to seeing her up, walking around and having energy. Oh. And here's some stats that just got released a few weeks ago from Wellness for Humanity. 84%, with increased energy, mental clarity, reduced pain, improved digestion, and improved relationships, right? I mean, when we think about our relationships that start to dissolve, and when we start to get our health back, how our relationships improve. So that's a really key one. And these are all people who are helping themselves from the comfort of their own home, focusing on optimizing their vibration, meanwhile doing no harm to their body and doing it themselves.
I know we're over time. I'm sure people at least want to know the price.
We have just two slides left.
Okay.
So a couple ways to get involved with the foundation. You can sponsor a Lyme to Wellness family. You can donate an Amp Coil to someone in need. You can donate to the Wellness for Humanity Foundation to support for their clinical research and education and outreach programs. And if you don't have the funds, if you know a philanthropic person, then share this message. People with money are always looking for a way to make a difference. And lastly, you can apply to receive help through the foundation. Fortunately, right now, I don't want to discourage you from applying to receive help, but for every 1 Amp Coil, there's 50 applications. 50 applications. Yep. So imagine with, $100,000, $200,000 worth of donations, that spread is it's unimaginable, of what can happen. So the last slide here, ways to get involved with Amp Coil.
Yeah, so I'll bring it to a close here. So, of course, our website, most people love our website, very easy to navigate, lots of great videos in there. You know, experience a demo. You know, this is definitely an experiential tool, and we have people using this in all 50 states now and all the provinces throughout Canada. So we do have people probably within an hour or two of where you're located. Of course, acquiring an Amp Coil, which basically means purchasing. We were fortunate enough to be able to come up with an incredible finance program where most people are able to finance this for under $150 a month, even interest-free the first year. And then there's also becoming an ambassador, which was really the pay it forward program we talked about in the beginning, which gives people an opportunity to start sharing this with others, and then, you know, being able to get a nice return financially, which a lot of times pays off their own technology.
Yeah, we have over 150 people that have Amp Coils that have decided to be ambassadors and really make that their mission to. They got their lives back, and they just say, I just want to pay it forward and help other people. And so there's about $1,000 that is set aside. Instead of putting it into marketing dollars, we just give it back to the people that are out there, you know, making a difference. And so people very quickly pay off their device or use it as an extra income source.
And just to, this is a picture of our team here. And we're very fortunate. This team's been with us for a few years now. Every single one of them has been with us pretty much since day one, which is incredible because they're so passionate about what we do. And none of these people are on commission. So when you talk to somebody, they're not there to try and sell you a product. They're there to really make sure this is the right tool for you.
Yeah, all of them have gone through their own Lyme chronic autoimmune issue, got better, and then, you know, we said, hey, well, do you want to share your story? And so they started, you know, coming and that's who you're going to be talking to when you go to the website and chat, or when you pick up the phone, or those people.
It's really an extended family.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is a movement.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for bearing with us. We do realize that we did go over time a little bit. We get a little passionate about what we're talking about here, and it's a big deal for a lot of people. I don't know if there is time for questions, but we're here if...
yeah, so if you'd like to open up for any questions, we are free for that.
All right, that's great. Thank you guys so much. This is super helpful. I absolutely loved listening to this, and I think our listeners also have found it very helpful. If anyone has questions, go ahead and type them into the questions chat box, and I will read them for you. We do have a bunch to start with that have already come in. So I'll just read them off, and you guys just answer them as you see fit. Are there any medical conditions this is contraindicated for, like, for example, seizures?
Do I answer that? You want me to?
With seizures?
Seizures, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a general. That was a specific, but in general, are there any?
Well, in general, PEMF seizures are considered a contraindication. However, I do know several moms, including myself, that have used it for Lyme-related seizures, or seizures that we didn't actually know were related to Lyme, and it has gotten them off their medication. They don't have seizures anymore. So it is in our contraindications. It's really up to the end user.
Yeah, and we do have a team that can help evaluate based on what type of seizures are, if we think this can be a good route for them to go.
Yeah, we do have medical staff on board.
The next question is, if a child can't sit still, can you put it near them, or does it have to touch the body? And I know you touched on this a little bit with, you know, putting your daughter to sleep.
Yeah, I'll answer it real quick.
It does need to touch the body.
Yeah, it does need to touch the body, but here's the cool part, is most kids that can't sit still, either you put a book in front of them or a video or something like that, and they get so attracted to the coil that
Very calming.
it's very calming. When within minutes, all of a sudden you're going, whoa, I've never seen that kid sit still, because it grounds them. So it works really well that way, and it's one of the first times that parents go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, otherwise you can just do like I do, is they fall asleep and then I put the coil on them while they're sleeping.
Perfect. Can a person use electronics while on it, like an iPad or a computer? Or would you not recommend that?
Well, we don't advise it. We really want people, whenever possible, to unplug and get away from all those things while they're doing a session. You know, if you need to answer something really quick on the phone or something, do it for a few seconds and then put the phone away. You really want to try and keep those things at least a foot or two away from the field.
Yeah, I mean, we recommend at least two to maybe 3 feet away, because of the strong magnetic field, it will wipe out a computer, it'll wipe out your phone, it'll wipe out a tablet, like completely clear. So just simply from a safety perspective with your technology, you don't want to get it too close. But if you have it at some distance, there are times where I'll save screen time for when they're doing a session, and I'll play a video for the kids while they're doing it.
Okay. Is it safe to use during pregnancy?
We just don't
more from a liability standpoint.
We just
don't want everything to, of course, happen to the mother and the child.
Yeah.
And then from a liability from the company standpoint, our legal team just advises to keep that one.
Yeah, I mean, we have had some people use it, but because it's really the cleansing tones in the device, there's a lot of detox that happens. And it's, when you're pregnant, it's not a good time to be cleansing.
Yep, that makes sense to me.
So.
Okay, what if you have a child who can't yet speak, like it's pre-verbal? Can the Better Guide app still help? If you can get them to yell or scream or babble, does it need to be 30 seconds of nonstop speech?
So we actually have a couple people on staff that can help in those situations, that are trained to understand how to look at what's going on with that child or situation and make sure that we're giving you the right frequency patterns.
Yeah, well, and also it doesn't have to be the standard speaking. Just any kind of tones or conversations. It doesn't have to be words.
Yeah, but if they're nonverbal, we still have a way to help them.
All right, so this one is kind of long. It might be specific, or we need to direct them to somebody to speak with, but I have Lyme. My main symptom is I want to eliminate dizziness and sensory issues such as sound sensitivity and nerve and brain issues. My neck and back are very deteriorated, and I've been bedridden. I've tried so many things to no avail. I have MTHFR, which makes it hard for my body to detox. How could I start to get better without having herxing and worse reactions that make me sicker? My body can't take it much longer. Like, is there a way to do this? I think what they mean is there a way to gently do this without the herx?
Yeah. Are you sure you're not already an Amp Coil user? That sounds like most of the people that have Amp Coil. That is so classic. So classic. Yes. We've seen more and more people with MTHFR, and it's we know that the Amp Coil, all those other symptoms that you were talking about. There's a section in the software called Vitality Journeys. And those are all the top neurodegenerative microbes. And so I would highly recommend going in there and using your voice analysis to direct you into there, because that's all the co-infections and the rickettsias and mycoplasma and all these different kinds of things. So that's usually what you're experiencing, that's where people go, is into the vitality journeys. Now, from a detox perspective, you are going to need to take it slower if you're not eliminating, because when you're cleansing and you're not eliminating, then you're just going to be swimming in toxins. Okay. Now, we do have things built in, like a journey called Herx Help, that floods the body with all kinds of nutrients that help neutralize toxins. And that is helpful for the standard person. Okay. For somebody with MTHFR, it usually is helpful, but you may also need to do something, in combination, like, whatever you do. Some people do supplements that help the methylation pathways. Some people do a foot bath. Some people do regular saunas, something to help draw those toxins out.
Yeah, and again, we do have great coaching. And just to keep in perspective, of the thousands of people that have come to us the last few years, we've only had, I think, 3 people that decided this just did not work for them. So we almost always find a way to help just about anybody that comes to us.
So yes, it still can be beneficial. You're just going to need to take it a bit slower.
Okay. Do you need to use a binder to make sure toxins get pulled out of the system while cleansing?
Not everybody does, but I would. Why not? You know, it could be, it's just that much more helpful. But we didn't, for the first year of using the coil and all the users out there, nobody really thought to use binders, and we're still getting great results. But recently, I think since MTHFR and things like that have become so much more prevalent, there's much more talk about using binders.
Yeah, and we can help with recommendations with that as well. So, you know, we like to be a one-stop shop for people, so they don't have to go look other places. Yeah,
I think where people really use it is not so much with the microbes, the toxins so much, but with the metals. When you're doing the metal journey, I would, if there's a place that you're going to use it, I would use it then.
These are great questions.
Yeah, that you just answered another question. So whoever asked Bill's question, there it is. Have you found most people with Lyme can stop taking tons of supplements once they go through?
Oh, I'll attest to that one. I purposely tested this. We talked about the bedroom full of supplements that I used to take. I went cold turkey, literally, just to see what would happen. And I was amazed. After about 30 days, I was like, I didn't even think about taking a supplement because of how much my body started to rebuild on its own. So I think in a lot of cases, the supplements are doing more harm than good for people. They don't even realize it. So, there's a few baseline things that are always good to take.
Having your probiotic and your digestive enzyme and your minerals. Those, you've got a few baselines that everybody should just take forever because our food just isn't going to provide it, and we're walking around in a toxic environment.
There's a great video on our website that Mara speaks about on this very topic. That really walks people through the journey.
That's a huge change with supplements.
For sure.
Do you guys still have time to take questions, or still more? Okay.
I just want to make sure that we can talk about this all day. This is what we do.
I just want to make sure. Do you have to complete the 30-step detox before you start the cleansing journey?
You don't have to complete it. It really depends on where you're at in your journey. A lot of people that are really have been chronic for a long period of time prefer to start with and do better with starting with the general detox. And so that they can go through and, it goes through A, airway, B, brain, C, circulation, D, digestion, E, endocrine. And it really goes through each area of the body and provides a general cleanse with the most common microbes, metal toxins, things like that affect those organ systems. And so people do really well on that. However, it's not necessary. There's other people that are in pretty good health and they just want to jump right into the cleanse journeys. And you can do that as well and really start targeting things specifically. So it's like, do you start general? Do you start specific? Well, if you're really compromised and your channels of elimination aren't open and your lymph is all clogged with yeast and your liver's got a liver fluke in it and all that, you're probably gonna provide that general opening before you start going in and specifically working with
and if you're not sure, that's why it's great that we have the voice analysis. You do the voice analysis, you can share it with one of our team members and they can help make an educated decision.
You just call support and you let them know where you're at in your health and they can help you, help guide you in that way.
All right, and that's pretty important too. There's a number of very specific questions that we probably don't have time to get into today, but you guys can go online to their chat box and type them in, and people there are trained to answer those. But here's one for you guys. How long did it take you to neutralize your Lyme using the device? What co-infections did you have, and where are you now in your Lyme and coiling journey?
Okay, all right, I'll take that one on. According to the last holistic MD I went to and the voice analysis that came up for me, I think I pretty much had them all. I mean, almost everything you could possibly think of. So I was one of the most compromised cases you can imagine. So this was before we really had a fine-tuned protocol. And for me, it really took, within a month I started feeling good. Within 3 to 6 months, I really felt like I was out of the woods. That same person, because of how we've really fine-tuned the protocol, 2 to 3 months is realistic. as long as they're doing the other things that our team recommends that are pretty easy to follow.
Yeah. And it just depends on exactly what is going on for you, because when you go in and play a journey, like if you're going to play a spirochete journey, you play it 4 times at 17 minutes. And that's when we have found that in general, that's about when those harmonics then become, neutralized in a way. So 4 times at 17 minutes for the spirochetes harmonic journey. If you've got Babesia, you would go in 4 times at 17 minutes as well. So how long it takes you to get well? Well, depends on how many different journeys that you would need to play to bring your body to that optimal vibration. But I hope that answers your question as far as how long it takes and how many times you play it. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Okay.
There are a number of questions around if there is a replay. I just want to assure everyone that this has been recorded and it will be auto-emailed out to everyone that registered. So just a heads up, you'll have that, as well as it will be posted on our YouTube channel. So
Wonderful.
That's just a question that keeps repeating. All right, so there's another question around, okay, so this is someone that has early Lyme diagnosed like CDC standards. She's asking a rough idea. I think you've kind of answered this, a rough idea around the number of treatments, like 100 or 1,000. But then she's asking, is it preferable to treat 1 track at a time, like Borrelia times 4, or would it be best doing group cleanse times 10? She's done, I guess, she's done some, stuff with no side effects, and then she's wondering how many treatments can you do in a day?
Yeah, well, first off, we just got to be careful with the verbiage, the treatments, unless someone's medically trained, just to keep.
Treatment, diagnosis, things like that. So the question is, if I'm understanding it correctly, do you do 4 times or add more journeys in there and repeat it multiple times, like 10 times, which is preferable?
Yeah, That's the question. She's saying that her doctor actually told her to start using the Amp Coil. So just
Wonderful.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, so initially we just started doing things 4 times at 17 minutes. And the reason why now there's another option to do 5 journeys and doing that 10 times is because we found that there was less of a Herx response when we were doing it for a shorter period of time, but repeating it multiple times. So instead of just going in there 4 times, sometimes people were starting to Herx. And so people seem to be getting better results, like more results with less Herxing, if you could, play Babesia and spirochetes and mycoplasma and roundworms and fungus, and lower the stress of those harmonic frequencies in the body, and lowering all of those. Maybe would take 2 weeks instead of 4 days, but people seem to be doing better when all of those were going down instead of just one thing coming into balance, with less Herxing as well. So does that answer the question for you?
Yeah. There's a question around EMFs, like, do you need to turn off all the EMFs to use PEMF? And I'm thinking they're probably thinking Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that, because I was somebody who was extremely Wi-Fi sensitive and many other things. And so here's what we tell people is, if at all possible, start with at least turning off your Wi-Fi while you're sleeping. If at all possible, you have a smart meter, you can have them removed, and I highly recommend that, because that's a really powerful negative field that's going on around you 24/7. If at all possible, turning the EMFs or getting Wi-Fi completely removed from your house and hardwire, which is healthier for us anyway, especially if you have children. So those are some things that, if you can create those environments, especially the one for sleeping, that allows the body to really restore. So I would at least start there. And if you're highly sensitive, then just get them removed completely. It's not that challenging. And once you do, you will feel a lot better. Yeah. And it'll still work, but it just becomes more effective
Well,
because you're not fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, because it's counteracting.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that the coil is literally like this human tuning fork for you, right? And your body is going to harmonize to those frequencies. Well, with Wi-Fi and a router and a cell phone, your body is harmonizing to those frequencies. And these are frequencies that are not within biological range. And it scrambles the immune system and it really throws things off. People who are sensitive can really, really feel it, especially people who their health is compromised. Spirochetes, they go nuts in Wi-Fi because they feel it's like that they know the frequencies are there, but it's not that precise frequency, which is a disabling frequency. All they know is that they're under threat. They're feeling, so they release these neurotoxins, and so you start to get flooded with all these, you know, the neurotoxin types of symptoms.
And at the same time, while you're getting that cleaned up, once it does get cleaned up, you can be around, because we realize it's hard to completely eliminate being around these fields. You can start to feel more comfortable in those fields.
As you're cleaning out. I mean, go on YouTube and look at mold when exposed to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So, you know, in the same way that the coil is working, Wi-Fi, all these other EMFs are also working. So you just want to be conscious that you're exposing yourself to the healthy EMFs and not the harmful ones.
This is where our coaching comes in too.
Yeah, yeah. So step one, just turn it off at night and just limit that exposure, and you know, as much as you possibly can.
All right.
Okay, well, it's time for us to wrap up today. That was a wonderful presentation, Aaron and Geneva. I think our audience will find that extremely helpful. So thank you so much for all of your time and information. On behalf of the Thinking Moms Revolution, I would like to thank you for your insightful presentation, and to our audience who joined us today. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Beautiful stuff.